Hello, everyone. It's Jerry at the Fledge, and welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. Hey, I'm making great progress on the sanctuary down here, getting ready to open up for a couple of small events to see how it flows, and really excited about that. Want to give a couple shout outs today. One is to thiscnt.com for the collaboration we're doing on some of the mashing up different shows within Every Damn Day. And I always talk about my t-shirt, and today I found old t-shirt from Your Mom Skateboards. It says, if my trucks were any looser, they'd be your mom. So we always had fun with that old skate shop. All right, today on the show, I've got somebody I'm super excited to talk about. I've been wanting to talk to you since we started the show. James, how you doing today?
I'm great, Jerry. How are you today?
I'm doing well. So I'm always asking people about their backgrounds, and it's usually, their office or their bedroom or something like that. Where you at today?
Well, today I am on the patio of the People's Kitchen. You can see the mural behind me. It actually goes all the way around the back of the building as well. That actually was done in collaboration with an art collective by the name of Endon, that they do some of our artwork inside as well. One of my friends that I used to live with at Monty years ago is a member of it, and they're just so talented. So.
And Monty being the co-op. But what's their name again? Endon?
Endon. It's a Enden. Endon Art Collective.
Endon Art Collective. I don't know if I know them.
Yeah, they do a lot of wood cutting and stuff like that. I've seen. It's all very mathematic. The artwork is very geometrical. Very, very cool look.
Yeah, I always thought the People's Kitchen, and you guys have a nice style.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It feels a little chaotic sometimes in there, but I think that's part of the charm as well. And just we really are actually starting to rotate our art a little bit more. We've got two of our people here, Alexander Leonard and Aaron von Cronenberger, that are kind of looking around at local artists right now and seeing what they think is a good fit for us. And we're going to keep it going with people from Lansing making art. So.
Well, I've got about 1,200 paintings in here from about 200 artists. If they ever just want to walk through and see something,
Absolutely.
I'm sure an artist would love that.
Yeah.
But before we get too far into the People's Kitchen or anything like that, let's talk about you a bit. Where were you born and raised, and where'd you go to school? How'd you get to this patio on the People's Kitchen?
Well, I am very much a Lansing boy. I did spend some time in Detroit when I was young, but the vast majority of it was here. I was born at Sparrow. I'm a member of a single-parent household, and so I moved around a lot as a kid. We were Section 8, but my mom always made sure we had cable and we're fed, and did a really great job given the card she was dealt. But the majority of my schooling was done at Fairview Elementary, the old one that's now, it's Pattengale now, I think.
Yeah, it's Pattengale Biotech.
Yeah, right. God. And then Eastern, Lansing Eastern was where I went to high school. I did some time at LCC as well, and got into restaurants pretty much while I was doing college. And the further I went into it, the further I figured out that that was what I liked.
So I got to go back because Fairview, my wife Shannon has taught at for, I don't know, the last 7 or 8 years maybe, and as it evolved into Pattengale too, and now she's switching schools this year. So shout out to Fairview, the Falcons or something like that.
That was it.
And then always love my Quakers, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. There's the most ridiculous high school mascot, but why not?
Yeah, it is weird, isn't it?
It's it's charming in its own way.
And then we've got a lot of ladies in this neighborhood who are actual Quakers, and it's so confusing. So, let's talk about some of. Oh wait, Section 8 and single parenthood. That that's pretty common in Lansing.
Yeah.
I think I always think about the poverty numbers because they depress me so much. The 27% of our population is below the poverty threshold, and another 55% below an ALICE threshold, which is basically living check to check and one small thing from just rocking your whole financial situation. So, um, what I want to ask you stuff about that, but I don't quite know what to ask because I know what I want to talk about with it. Tell us a little bit more about that. Like, what sides of town did you live on? And,
Well,
did you ever live in Hague Road in the Big T?
no, a lot of it, we lived on this duplex in Davis, over by the Grand River and all that. And I actually did go to, there's an old abandoned school there called Moores River Park.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually went to first grade there for a little while. The teacher I had was really verbally abusive to the point where my mom, and I was like that ADHD hellion, to be fair, but my mom would tell me the story of how she went to pick me up from school for a doctor's appointment or something one day, and she could hear my teacher yelling at my class from down the hall. So it was a beautiful school. There was a playground right on the river. I don't know how safe that was, but it was really picturesque. And so she pulled me out, and we just kind of held me in Fairview after that. Now we moved around a lot for a while there, because before that we were living in what's now Arbor Glen, I think. It used to be called Canterbury Commons, and I believe it's on. God, this was when I was 6, so I think it was either the south or the west side, and it was a real rough neighborhood.
Yeah.
But then Davis was really nice, and then we bounced around a few more places after that. But it was always kind of this interestingly unique stress point that, Section 8 is coming, we got to make sure the house is clean and all that. Yeah.
I grew up in Section 8 housing from all the way through high school.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
it's different. And I wouldn't have moved nearly as much, I think, if I hadn't done that. But it wasn't the end of the world because I was held in the same school. So, I was able to maintain a lot of those friend circles and stuff like that. I imagine some people really do get just bounced around, and the small amount that did happen to me can be rough.
I have to say Kendon, Riddle, Atwood, Gardner, Everett, Eastern. So I went to 6 of our schools, I guess.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So now let's talk about your projects. What are you doing now? And the Bartenders Guild or the competitions is, if you want to start there, because I know I was being too generic.
Oh, it's okay. So with competitions and all that, I did just finish up in April. USBG presents USBG presents Diageo World Class, and that is a mouthful. But what it essentially means is the United States Bartenders Guild put on this competition with Diageo, and Diageo carries a massive spirit portfolio, and they're an international company, so they've got Johnny Walker Black, they've got Bullet, they've got Tanqueray, they've got Ciroc, Kettle One, so many different brands. And so what they do for this competition is it runs on a global scale. You start with the top 100 in each country, and you whittle down to the top 50, and then that's when the competition really starts up. And then from there, you go into the finals, which was the top 25, and then there's a speed round from there, and a bunch of other stuff. And right now, I believe it's Doug Fournier out of California is currently representing the United States and the global version of this competition. So all of these other people from all these other countries are meeting up right now in Madrid, Spain, to get ready and just show what they have. So when we talk about cocktail competitions, a lot of them can be just make a drink, right? Here's the theme, here's what, promote our spirit. And with Diageo, because you get a full range of products, you can really do a lot more. One of the cool challenges I saw that happened before I left, I finished in the top 50, but the top 25 got to do something where they made a menu concept. They had to write like a 6-drink menu and create a theme for it. And then they actually were given a graphic designer to like create this concept, like create a menu and all that. So like essentially it's kind of like consulting at that point, right? You're creating a menu, creating a concept, uh,
Yeah.
and like things like that. So they really run the full gambit of like kind of what a bartender needs to be, other than just like assembling drinks, which is really
Yeah.
cool. And there's a lot of education that comes with that.
So you said you got to the top 50. Is that pretty prestigious, or?
I mean,
I mean,
kinda, honestly. The real, like when you make it to that top 25, when you're a national finalist, because how it goes is that in that top 50, there's regions, right? So I finished pretty well. I was pretty happy with my scores this year, but I finished within my region instead of going to the national stage. I'm still nationally ranked, but like, it's a little different than like actually making it to the big show.
yeah,
And I've watched some of those streams and broadcasts, and it's pretty cool. But even still, making it to the top 50, like Diageo's got like my name in my profile. Actually, through that, Bullet reached out to me to do like a bar skill video that we were. This was during COVID, and I don't know if they're ever going to show it, but I really want people to see it because I ended up working with Michael McCallum here in town from Rebel Pictures and his
yeah.
crew to put it together. And it's like the best thing I've made because I didn't make it. It's the best thing that I like is me in front of a camera. Like it just looks great. So I really can't wait to show people that. But yeah, like as you go through these competitions and things, like a lot doors start to open. People start to reach out to you for stuff. I got paid $500 to do that video for Diageo's YouTube. Like that's
Oh,
pretty cool.
sweet.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's nobody knows this, right? No, I don't even know that there's a bartenders guild. I don't even know that the bartender that I'm sitting across from might be nationally ranked at stuff, right?
Yeah.
Is that what do you think about that? I mean, how is that unique to Lansing? Is it, or is this?
I wouldn't say it's unique to Lansing. It is unique to smaller markets, and I think it might be a little bit more to Lansing because when you think about the history of this town, it was very much a factory town, like right, like it was strip clubs, bars where everything's double, giant things of
Open
beer.
up at 7:30 for third shift when they're getting
Exactly.
out.
Yeah. No, it was about efficiency, and especially considering I think in the Midwest we tend to drink a lot harder because of the extended winter months. You go out to the coastal region and there's a much, you see a lot more zero proof and non-alcoholic and low ABV stuff, and that trend is starting up here as well. We're starting to see
Yeah.
it more and more. But when we talk about culture, it's like one of my wine reps a while ago told me that mentioned the term of pot roast culture. That really stuck with me. The idea that ideas come in or tend to come in from the coast and then make their way inward. So, I think Lansing is catching up, and I'm really happy to see where like the status of like our bar and culture and our restaurant culture is right now. Um, but there's not a lot of emphasis on education, and one thing that I got lucky about was I started working at the Soup Spoon, and Keith Buckley over there is very knowledgeable, and he really sparked an interest. So I said to him, "It's like I want to like know more about this." Of course, he started suggesting books, and he said, "Go to the Sugar House in Detroit, in Corktown." And I was talking to Steve Widman over at Meats and Becky Enich, who formerly worked over there as well, and they were like, "You've never been, you have to go." So we get in the car and go. And our bartender there happened to be the at the time he was the vice president for the Bartenders Guild, and he heard us talking about work. And he was like, "Are you guys industry?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Here's this for a winter mixer that was like the following month." And so I went and I got signed up, and that opened up to meetings and educational functions and stuff like that. Well, from there, I was already starting to learn more and read more. And Justin King, at the time I was working at Gracie's, and Justin King, formerly of Bridge Street, who's getting ready to start up like a wine distribution company, I do believe, or something exciting with wine. And forgive me, Justin, if I misquoted there. But he mentioned to me that he really thought I should give competitions a try, and so I did. And I've learned a lot through different educational programs and books and things like that. But like throwing myself into the ring and win, lose or draw, like here's what I have. That'll push you. That'll and it's through your failures that you learn. It's not through you can read all day, but until you try and fail, you're not really gonna get it.
Yeah.
And my first competition was a nightmare. I it was an old-fashioned competition put on by Heaven Hill. So how fancy could it be, right? And I go in, and I have this cardboard box of tools I borrowed from work and glassware I borrowed from work and some towels. And I get in, and everybody's got like these other tool rolls for all their bar tools and like these nice bags, and they're all polished, like feverishly polishing like antique barware, and they've got these crazy serving trays. I'm just like scared. I haven't been that scared since like my first day of school. And my friend, my now friend, David Martinez, who's a handler for the competition, walks up and he's like, "Are you the guy from Lansing?" And I'm like, "Yup." And the competition obviously did not go well, but my second competition after that was my first time getting into world class, and that was the top 50 again that year, and that was in this past year in 2018, and I got a plane ticket to Vegas and a hotel room at Mandalay Bay, and they handed me a bunch of tools and $151 in walking around money. And like that was my second competition ever. Like, and obviously I was still pretty awkward, but at that point I bought tools, and I really stepped up my game. And I've done about 5 now, and every time I can see markedly how much better I'm doing.
Oh,
So,
nice.
it's really important to challenge yourself. I think a lot of people uh, hesitate to do that, and I do too. And I think for that, starting things like that is the hardest part. So,
Have you ever tried to do something locally, like just get a few of the bartenders together and compete?
um, so there's a few things to that. There have been a few competitions around here. I was not part of them. Um, so they do exist on the local level around here. They're just pretty rare.
Yeah.
But they are expensive to put on, and you want your judges to be experts. And I've seen they pull in some distillers and some good people here. Uh, but it depends on who's putting it on too. You know, uh, by and large, the people that are putting on competitions out in Detroit are liquor companies, and the idea is them selling their product. If you've got a restaurant doing it, to just try and host, that gets a
Yeah.
little messy at that point, in my opinion. Um, like Rick, there was an individual at American Fifth that put one on, and like it was good. It was an honest effort, but it just didn't really. It was still, this was like years and years ago. I bet we could do a better job of it now. But by and large, the competitions I find are through the bar guild. That's one thing they do for you is they send you like, hey, here's a competition you can sign up for, and they're giving away $1,000 and a trip to Mexico if you win. Like,
Yeah.
and win, lose or draw. What you're getting out of that experience is the networking of being in room with talent like the people that are also excited about doing something like this, and meeting brand managers for the spirits and things like that. Because those guys, they'll give you their card every time. If you ever need a favor, call them. Like maybe they've got a post off on a case, maybe they've got a new product, maybe they've got some advice for you.
Yeah.
And the other side about that too is not most people won't stay a bartender forever or on the floor forever. So, that can help you break into distribution. And in Lansing, I think that these kinds of conversations are criminally neglected. I
Yeah.
see restaurant owners that are not really versed in this, like the lack of education goes back generations. So it's not necessarily anybody's fault that we're not having these conversations, but it's time to kind of jumpstart it a little bit, I think. And I've worked at places that I've tried to put on events, and I hear a lot of hitting and hawing about like, well, this is going to cost too much. And to bartenders and restaurant people out there that get that answer, get with a business friend of yours, put together a business plan, show them in dollars and cents, because one of two things are happening here: they don't want to deal with it, or they actually are concerned about costs. If they're actually concerned about costs, and you can prove to them it's not an issue, then there's no reason for them to say no at that point. So
yeah, I love it. So as you said a couple of things that I was hoping we were going to talk about. One is you said, you're in the room with talent. And in wrestling, we got a phrase that if you're the best one in the room, you need to find a new room. Right?
Yeah.
And, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but you're moving to Detroit soon.
I am moving in July. It is bittersweet. There's more work to be done here, but my girlfriend is working at a very nice spot in Detroit by the name of Prime and Proper, and I know I've got opportunities out there, and we're seeing each other 2 days a week right now, so it's time to move, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I'm only an hour and a half away, and my family lives here, so it's not the end.
So I want to come back to that in a second, and then you said that it's generational, the lack of education in the bartending or in the restaurant here in Lansing. And I think about bartending as, for me, it was a job that got me through college. I used to bartend at the Small Planet in the summers, and super fun.
Awesome.
But I didn't have the mindset that you had. I wasn't trying to make it a craft. I just poured drinks the way they told me to pour drinks and hope that, everyone was happy. And if they weren't, we fixed it.
Well, and there's room for that, like in the industry. Not everything's got to be like in a deep dive into flavor theory. I love the old Miami in Detroit as much as I love the Sugar House. I love, I loved Max as much as I love Unvi, but it's really about giving people the chance to say yes to that. And that's what a lot of people around here don't have. They don't have the path forward to say, I want to do this craft bartending thing. I think about a few years ago, pre-COVID, I went to Sugar House for a book tour for Jim Meehan, who started Please Don't Tell in Manhattan, which is this one of the original speakeasy concepts, like a telephone booth and the door opens and it's this little shoebox that does amazing drinks. He was doing a book tour, and I got to meet him and get and it was through the Bar Guild, and I got to meet him, get my book signed, and listen to him talk. But I met a kid there, and he was like, yeah, I just turned 21, and I love this book, and I just can't wait to get further into it. And in my head, I'm like that, and I think I just side to him, like, that's crazy. I never even knew this was a thing until I was 28. So the culture is shifting, definitely. But what we're seeing now is we don't have the kinds of torchbearers, the people leading the charge like we do the Sugar House and Bad Luck and that whole restaurant group that really kind of press upon the rest of the restaurant industry. This is the best. This is the gold standard, and good enough is not good enough. I've worked for managers in the past year and other buildings that straight up would say to me when we started to see like a dip in sales or cocktails didn't do so well one week that oh, well, we could really simplify all this. Like, drinks don't need to take that long to assemble, and Jameson's faster, and this is what we have to fight. Because good enough is not good enough. If you want to elevate culture, you don't just stick with what works. You don't play it safe. Yeah. And I'm very grateful that we're not afraid to kind of strike out and be a little bit more ambitious here. And I think more places should try it, but it takes the education too.
Are people So it sounds expensive, right? It sounds like this is for rich folk or something like that, or for the hipsters, or at least the guys that aren't in poverty and under the Alice threshold. Am I wrong? And is there a market here for this? Because I love what you're saying about hitting the culture.
Yeah. Well, and that is an excellent question. That's one that like I wish people would ask me more, because I think people make an assumption about that question that it's only for, you go down to unbeat, drinks are $14 to $16. They can be 18 sometimes, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, but as it stands, that's really one of the only forays I can think of. MP Social does this, makes a solid drink. Um, American Fifth has been doing it for a while, but they're a tasting room, so they have different rules to follow, so they can't really hit it correctly. Um, so the idea is that this can be affordable if you approach it that way. Now, and that was part of my challenge when I started the bar program here, and I was really fortunate that they called me, or it wasn't stepping into something that was already built. They were like, "Hey, we're getting a liquor license. How do you want this to look?" And the first thing I thought of was, how much I would always lament that my friends couldn't really come in and see me at Umby unless it was like date night, or like they had a windfall or something else, because you can eat there cheap. It's no two ways about it. But if you want to go there and really drink the drinks and eat the food, you're gonna pay. And so when I got to here, I immediately built the shelf rum dominant. Part of the reason things get so expensive in cocktails are the more expensive liqueurs, and bourbons, and like a lot of cognacs and things like that. They just get really expensive. Tequila gets really expensive, and Lansing likes whiskey and tequila. So those are very expensive habits or hobbies or whatever you want to call them. And
I call mine a habit.
I mean, we're going to talk about that too, actually. But
Okay.
I watch people run. So build the program. My drinks are $10 to $12. So yeah, you can do it that way. And my wells, like I have nice stuff. The wells are $5.50 here. So like things can be done cheap if you are smart or
Yeah.
clever. Let's say clever.
Okay. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that might be your answer, because there's so many reasons why people just don't want to change and don't want to move forward. They're not good reasons, but
Yeah. Well,
they
yeah.
right. We understood. Um, so, and then back to the room, or the talent in the room. Is Detroit going to elevate you to another higher ranking?
Uh, well, that's the hope, right?
Yeah.
I hope with because even when I was doing this last competition, I had people from Detroit who I knew. Some reached out to me fresh from Diageo and other places, and were like, "Hey, man, saw you made it. Uh, if you want to run through your concepts, if you want to talk about it, if you want to run through some rounds with me, like I'll do that with you." And like at the time, my car wasn't really reliable; it was COVID, so it's like I can't really come out and like do that. But like that opportunity is there. When I talk to people hear about the fact that I'm in world class or a competition, like they're kind of like, "Oh, neat." But when I talk to them out
Right.
there, they're like, "Hey, what do you need? Like, do you want to bounce ideas off me? Things like that." So the conversation is different out there. By a long shot, they have an established cocktail culture. So I'm hoping that it'll be something that gives me a little bit more of a foundation to build on. But we'll just have to see, you know.
Yeah. See, I used to complain about the Lansing scene, that you go sit in a bar, and it's me sitting in these bars you were talking about earlier, but all they want to do is bitch about their job or talk about the weather. And I want to talk about innovation and creativity and all these other things. And the scene needs what you're talking about to kind of make my scene come true for me.
Well, and it's changing. It's not like it's not happening. We watch The Avenue.
Well, I
Really
was going
step
to
up their
say, I'm
cocktail game.
obviously not talking about,
Oh no,
all the guys I
no, no,
love.
no, 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 no. We are not talking. We would not speak ill of The Avenue.
Yes.
But they're really doing a lot more with the creative and exploration of flavor.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have a $55 bottle of chartreuse to do that. Like you can do it with syrups like they're doing. You can do it through infusions. There's a lot of ways to get clever here.
Okay.
Like I said. But beyond that, there's bartender Joe Ray. I know over at Stober's that like every time I sit down and talk with him, we have the best conversations about whiskey, and the guy is so intelligent. And these kinds of conversations are happening more and more sectors you wouldn't expect them at. So it's happening, but we really just need um, a central point. Like if my goal, I was trying to get a Lansing Bargo going, and through that, I was going to loop people into the Detroit Bartenders Guild. So, like you don't have to live in Detroit to be part of that guild either. Is something I would say.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you see? Do you think you'll still be able to do some of that for Lansing, or?
I intend to. I mean, it's hard to say because everyone in Detroit is short staffed right now, and I'm looking at two places, though nothing is solid yet, and there's other irons in the fire. Um, but I mean, it is my goal to take some of what I'm getting out there and bring it back here. I've talked to Alec McCann and a few other bartenders here at the People's Kitchen and beyond about like, kind of pulling them into events in Detroit because that's what helped me.
Right. Yeah.
That's what it takes, I think, just making the trip and getting in the room with those people.
Well, probably a lot of people that want a bunch of talent to stay in Lansing are going to be all upset that you're leaving. And obviously, us, your friends and your family and all of that. We're not happy that you're leaving and all of that. But I also have a different view of it. I think it's great that you're doing this. I think that it's great that you're going, through this process of really perfecting your craft. And I admire you for it. And I think other people should admire, and I think you're going to have an impact on those other people as kind of being somebody that could be followed. And I think you will bump up the talent just in your moves you're making, because a lot of people respect you, I think.
I mean, I hope.
At least what I hear. So what's something you do every damn day to push all this forward?
Well, for me lately, being a bar manager, it's been really just pushing my staff to think about flavor as a concept. This last cocktail menu, we did a themed menu. The theme is love letters. And how I put it to them was, I want you to think about a moment in your life that you were loved or felt loved. And I want you to think about the smells, the tastes, everything about that moment and try to transpose it into a cocktail. So they ran with it. I was blown away by what they put forward. And one cocktail of mine. I don't know how I feel about telling other people's stories. But one cocktail of mine, just to give an example, is the Stalks and Pods, and it's vodka, a honey rhubarb syrup, lemon juice, and a cardamom bitter. A little bit of lemon juice. It's very simple cocktail. Bit of a Cosmo riff, but the story behind it is my grandmother used to take me out with her when she'd see her China painting teacher, and she had this massive garden in back, and I was like 6 or 7, so I'd run around like a lunatic out back, and they would sit inside, drink tea, and talk about all things China. So the stalks is the rhubarb, because she always had these massive rhubarb plants that I would just run through. And the pods is the cardamom to kind of simulate the tea. And just moments like that we can capture in a story and give to people that gives so much more value to the experience of drinking this drink at that point, and it connects you to your guest a little bit more.
Man, I love that whole thing. I mean, when I think about flavors, I don't think about the story, and I've never quite maybe even understood what that meant, right?
Yeah.
But now I know what it means, and I know I'm trying to think of my love letters and my smells and my flavors and all of that.
Yeah. And that's the second you people talk about this like it's some giant in the clouds. The second you lens it that way, like your mind just starts racing, right? Like and that's just finding the right way to unlock talent is kind of what I've been focused on right now. And that comes from looking at flavor theory and figuring out, what story you want to tell. And that's something I got from the competitions that I try to tell everybody. Tell a 360-degree story with whatever you're doing. It could be the drink, it could be whatever project you're on. Tell a story and bring it back to where you started it.
I love it. Yesterday, so we daisy chained the shows together. Yesterday on the show, I had a kid, Andrew. The show was called Fuck Cancer because he had cancer. And he's gotten through it. His question for you is, what's the most important thing you've ever done in your life?
The most important thing I've ever done in my life. So, obviously everybody's got a few things that run through their head at that point. I think one of the most important things for myself that I did is, and this is fairly recently within the last year or two, I kind of really did work on shifting my inner monologue or inner dialogue or however you want to say it, to be nicer to myself. I forgave myself for making mistakes, and the second I did that, doors just blew open. Like opportunities were abound. Like the second I stopped beating myself up and started saying it's okay, keep going, uh, like my life changed.
I
Nothing
bet.
but,
Yeah. I've been through that transition before, and it's amazing. And to me, it was right around your age, actually. Right around when I was 27, something clicked for me there, and got rid of my depression and everything.
Yeah,
All of it.
absolutely.
All of
It
it
was
was
just
gone.
one simple thing about catching it when you can. Like sometimes we all do that, but some of us do it a lot more than others. And like saying to yourself
Yeah.
when you feel that in your chest, like saying, hey, like you don't gotta talk to yourself that way. It's gonna be okay. Like perspective shifts, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Um, Tomorrow on the show, I've got. I actually, I'm not sure I'm going to pronounce the name right, but Jalian, who's a Reiki by donation is the name of their project. What
Mhm.
question would you like to ask them?
Oh God, we wrote it down. Yeah.
We did write it down.
I remember it was something to the effect of, what are you going, or what do you do, or what can you do to kind of further your skill set or your education? Is that about right?
Yep,
Okay.
that is it.
Yeah.
And being a Reiki, I think I'm saying that right, right?
That sounds right to me.
Okay. They're going to have some really mystical badass answer, right? Because
Yeah,
that's the
well,
thing.
that's perfect. Like I wasn't even sure who I was getting next when you asked me that. I was like, yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. What about you? What's something you can do, or how do you? What's something you can do? Yeah.
Well, it's a lot, something, but a lot of things. Education, reading. I'm currently reading a book by oh God, it's called Flavor: The Exploration of. It's a book about the neuroscience of flavor and how flavor impacts our brains, and even just I'm 20 pages in and I'm already learning about desserts look sweeter on white plates than they do on other plates and things like that. So reading is important for me.
Yeah.
Not everybody's a reader though. There's plenty of podcasts out there. I love Bartender at Large as well. It's a quick half-hour podcast. It talks about a lot of good stuff. He actually just talked to the U.S. champion at World Class in one of his episodes. It was really good to hear him talk. But beyond that, one thing bartenders are talking about more that they haven't in the past is wellness. And if you're just burning the candle at both ends, it doesn't matter how much education or how hard or how noble your intentions are. You've got to find time to sleep, to eat right. We talked about alcohol as a hobby or a habit earlier. It's a
Yeah.
habit, and we all need to be more responsible about our alcohol intake, especially in Lansing, especially as bartenders. A lot of us just get hammered, and that's okay once in a while. I'm not saying don't get hammered ever, but we need to be more mindful about how we're taking care of our bodies and
Mhm.
spiritually, mentally, and emotionally.
Yeah. I wanted to come back to that, and I'm glad that you brought it back. And I thought that was perfect the way you did it, by the way. Um, when you said wellness, I thought about the habit. I thought about, you know, how how difficult was it like during COVID? All right, so I go to a bar to drink and to be social and always engage with the bartenders. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, always. Then I get COVID, or COVID hits us and we have to shut down and all of these things. So that gets taken away from me. And I'm being theoretical now because I don't go to the bars like I did before, or
Right.
hypothetical. But the bartenders are so used to talking to everybody all the time. What was that like?
Well, my experience is a little different because I was essentially essential staff.
Mm,
Uh, for the first couple months, I was just home, and in that regard, I have a girlfriend, so we were both just kind of like in it together, and that really helped. But I do remember there was one individual who is a bartender, and I saw them out for like that first kind of open back up period, and I saw them at Stover's, and they hugged me and they just broke down and cried because it had been so long. And they had a partner too, like, even they, like, so for them it was way different because like they just weren't like, I was at least going into the building. I was working on getting our cocktail tap system set up so we could do to go cocktails easier. I still had work to do. But other people didn't. And like I remember that first 2 months, it was really hard. Bartenders are very social people, but they're also very task driven people. They need something to do. And if you just take them out of people and moving forward, it's hard. And yeah, I know for me I had a little easier than most, but I know some people that are very grateful to be getting on the other side of it right now.
yeah. Um, Happiness, sadness, joy, or hope? Which one would you like to talk about?
Hope.
All
I think
right.
that's important for Lansing
Yeah. What? Oh, then let's just expound on that. Why is hope important for Lansing?
because Lansing is a city that has been, ever since I was a child growing up here, working on pulling itself up. uh, you know, the idea of like maybe we need to open a casino, maybe we don't. All these things. These are the kinds of big swings that I've come to expect from Lansing to try and elevate things, and you know that requires hope. Taking chances and making big swings on more advanced menu concepts, on uh, bigger, new openings. Taking chances on opening community centers, uh, things like that. They all require hope, and so I think more than anything else, that's what we need to talk about when we talk about Lansing. We need to talk about hope and like how we can build it up because that's what the conversation is.
If you had to put it on a scale from 1 to 10, where 10 is enough hope to really keep making stuff happening and drive that culture change, where would you put Lansing on that 1 to 10 scale?
I would say an 8 or a 9. Like let's
Yeah.
call it an 8. Um, there are a lot of movers and shakers in this town. There are a lot of people really trying to drive that narrative, but there's always room for more. Especially in my sector, I don't see enough people talk about education and wellness and the flavor theory and the things we talk about here. There's far too many people that have been beaten into the rhythm of just pouring the stuff faster and calling it a day. And there's nothing wrong with that style of service. And speed is something we pride ourselves on as well. And the point is that there's always room to go higher, to do something bigger, uh, to make it better. Restaurateurs have this really nasty habit of saying it's good enough after they go long enough, and
Yeah.
we need to break that.
Well, some of the places I go in are 50, 60, 70 years old, maybe even more. And
And
it's the same family.
it's hard at that point to want to like innovate, especially we're talking about a big generational difference there. These are conversations that were not being had. You know, uh, when, just to throw a name out, DeLuca's was getting started, so it's a bit of an uphill battle, but
Yeah.
it's one worth having,
I think so too. Hey, we got a lot of great comments. I wasn't showing them here, but someone went to school with you.
Oh, happy Vaughn. Oh my God, I haven't seen you in years.
And then,
well.
yeah, I also want to show this one. Wonderful interview. Thanks to both of you. I think you did great explaining some things about flavor theory and bartenders and all of that. But I love your view on education and talent development and Lansing for that matter too. So, and then Luna said a bunch of stuff about his favorite drinks and all that. But yeah, we'll let that go. So. Thank you again for coming on the show. Like I told you, I've been wanting to have you on the show for a long time. I think you're super interesting, and I think you're super good for us. And I think your leaving is going to be good for us too, because you're going to go do something that's going to make us proud, that gives us hope. Right? There's hope to go on to something else, and I think you're really good for us, James. And I appreciate you. And we're going to miss you, but we know you're going to bring something valuable back to us.
Well, Jerry, everything you do is inspirational, man. You're talk about me being good for Lansing. If I'm good for Lansing, you're great for Lansing. So thank you for everything that you do.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you for those kind words. We'll say we're tied. We're both good, great. What would you like to take us out with?
Boy, I thought I had some for this. I'm gonna miss everyone. Lansing has been a part of my life for my entire life, and I am who I am because of the people in this town, and I wouldn't change or trade one moment of it. So just thank you to everyone.
I got to add a little something. I got this phrase, Lansing raised me, that I really love a lot, and I think you just hit the essence of it. So thank you for that, James. All right, everyone. We will see you later.
Bye.
Hey, stick with